So, episode 19 of the final season of The Walking Dead has aired. This episode is titled Variant, and if you haven't seen the episode and you don't want to get spoiled for you, do not listen to this review because this review is going to contain full spoilers for the episode. You've been warned. So this episode starts off with a small recap of Eugene's story, and I enjoyed this one more than the Daryl recap in last week's episode just because I knew Daryl's story. I know Eugene's story, but it was just insane to actually watch his story progress because I knew he started. I've seen this show many times, but you just forget what he used to be like when he first got introduced to the show. So to get that recap at the start of the episode, I actually really enjoyed. I wonder who's next week. Possibly Rosita, but who knows. But this episode was really good. It's not as good as the other two, but it's still great. It's still going on to show that this season is a great season. I thought the first half was mixed. Second half I thought was brilliant. The first 3 episodes of the third half have been really great. Just really great. Eugene is getting blamed for the death of Sebastian, even though he indirectly done it. I and most people with a rational brain would not blame him, but because the Commonwealth needs someone to blame, they can't just let the death of the president's son just be brushed off. They have to point the finger at someone, and as Pamela Milton says in this episode, we need to use someone as an example. So her plan is to get Eugene into custody and use him as an example. She even says to Mercer that I will let your sister free. She's been loyal to me for 10 years. I will let her go about her days. Give me Eugene. We are going to use Eugene as a symbol. And you can tell Mercer is not all for this idea, but he's like, the only one that matters to me is my sister. Completely fair enough. I feel like if I was in that situation, I'd probably be doing what he's doing too. When the only person left in your life that's part of your family, you would do anything you can to protect them. So you understand why he's putting his sister ahead of this guy he's only known for a couple of months. But to see Sebastian Milton's body strapped down, face covered in blood, the bite mark on his neck and scratches on his face it was actually quite insane to see. I can't remember the last time we saw someone turn into a walker. We did see Alden in episode 9 of this season, but we haven't seen someone wake up into a walker. So to see that later on in the episode, I actually was quite surprised by, as she was cleaning his mouth, to later be revealed that they never put him down. I kind of just assumed, no, I knew when I saw him strapped down, I thought it was a bit odd. I'm like, okay, well, they must not have put him down. But then to actually see him come up, I was thinking, why the hell did they not put him down? Later on gets revealed in the episode. But quite insane to see what Pamela Milton does with her son. Like, just to see her literally use her son as a weapon against Lance just goes to show that this woman is ruthless. She is going to be something dangerous to fight in the last 5 episodes of this series, and she is something that you do not want to mess with. Seeing that she is willing to let her dead son's body be used as a weapon against someone else, I honestly thought that was quite insane. I was not expecting that whatsoever, but the scene with her and Lance, really enjoyed that. It was very intense, very intimidating. He's begging for his life, but she is just with a blank expression on her face, just communicating with him. I thought all of that was great. Seeing Lance being left in the room with a zombified Sebastian and a dead, one of Lance's mates dead on the ground with a machete, I thought that was really great. I'm expecting to, next time we see Lance in that room, expecting his mate to be somewhat eaten a bit and Lance just sitting there covered in blood while Sebastian Milton is dead on the ground. But we do get to see Pamela Milton saying that she wants Eugene and she wants everyone from those communities to be questioned. So we do get to see a few people getting questioned. One was Rosita. That was quite a good scene. She's saying to, like, Mercer brings her in, he starts asking all these formal questions. She's like, oh, but are we just doing this as if you don't know me and it's going on? Great to see Rosita being pissed off the situation. Understandably, one, because she was under the impression Mercer was her friend, and two, she's been with Eugene pretty much since the start of the apocalypse, so of course she's going to side with Eugene in this situation. Eugene's like a brother to her, I imagine, so the fact that it makes sense that she goes about this. We also get to see Princess, who, not gonna lie, Princess had a really good story this episode, where she was going about trying to get people, like she went to King Ezekiel, she was talking to Mercer, and that scene with Mercer in particular I thought was fantastic. Her talking about her past growing up with her abusive stepdad and stepbrother, and how she just sees all men as monsters but doesn't see Mercer as a monster. And when you linger on Mercer's face when he looks defeated. He looks like he's stuck in between a rock and a hard place and he doesn't know what to do. Mercer's one of those characters that in the comic books I enjoyed, didn't love him. In the show I'm loving Mercer. I think Mercer is a great character. He's always got the same emotion on his face, but you're able to read different emotions from him because he's so fucking good. The actor is brilliant. Just seeing him portray Mercer, I am delighted. I remember when the comics first introduced the character and everyone was fan casting The Rock. I was like, why the fuck would you get The Rock? You will just see The Rock, you will not see Mercer. This guy, the only thing I've seen him in is Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, so he's a blank face for me. Just fantastic as Mercer. Honestly, really fantastic. The scene he has with his sister when he's interrogating her, she's reading the speech she has to give and sign her name to it to say like, oh, that she's been going through some stuff over the past couple of years. She didn't take her medication and she'd done all this, and she refuses to sign and says that she thinks that her dad would be proud of her for what she did and that their dad would be embarrassed and ashamed of Mercer. And then again, the look on his face, just honestly, this guy is just so fucking talented. I love the character of Mercer. Really excited to see what happens with his character moving forward. But throughout the episode we do get to see Eugene living in the church. Honestly, I don't really know why that wasn't the first place they would check. Of course, you check his apartment first. He's not there. They're going around checking. The guy who's in charge of the church is Father Gabriel. Someone who came from Alexandria. Would you not automatically assume check the church? That would be one of the ones I would think of first, because you'd want to check places that he comes with. Like if you would check the I don't know, the law firm that Yumiko works at, or you would check the veterinarians or the zoo or whatever Ezekiel works at. You would check all these places that they work and live at. I don't get why they didn't check the church. The church would be kind of like the first one you check, just because of how big it is. But you see him there, he's talking to Daryl. They're trying to get Max. Max, of course, gets captured. That's how we get to see the scene with her and Mercer talking. But a really great scene that started off really funny and then it went on to be a really great scene, really impactful scene, was when Eugene saying how he wants to go out there and help Max. He doesn't want to just leave Max there. And then he says, alright Daryl, if you're not going to let me pass, I'll fight you. And he stands back, he gets in a fighting position and he doesn't do anything. And Daryl's just standing there looking at him. And Daryl says, just go on. He steps back. Eugene takes a couple steps forward and he stops. And he says that he's a coward. And then Daryl says, no, you're not. You're just a smart guy. And Eugene saying how, oh, are you born brave or do you become brave? And Daryl says, oh, he believes both. And then Eugene, what they do with Eugene in this episode, just as well with last episode, just Eugene's story since the Commonwealth is very different than the TV show or the comic book version, but I'm really liking it. It's really fleshing out Eugene. Eugene's a character that, of course, every Walking Dead fan's probably had a love-hate relationship with. He was odd when you first met him, then you start to dislike him because he was lying to everyone, then you start to like him, then you start working with Negan. And then season 9, 10 and 11, 9 and 10, he was kind of just there, but now in 11 he's very much in the forefront. He's very much interesting story. So to see him do that, and then later on have to see Rosita when they're talking, and he's saying how, Rosita, you told me I would find my person. I have found my person. I can't go back to living the life we had. I will miss her. I'll be lonely. I'll be empty. I'd rather go about and see what happens here than go back and live that life I had, because that's just not a life I can go back to. And then they hug, and I just thought it was a great scene. Part of me wonders is that their goodbye? Is one of them going to die? Is that the end of this group of the two of them together? Because it reminded me of when with Eugene and Abraham's final scene in episode 16 of season 6, when Abraham was saying how he's very proud of Eugene, and how he's just so proud of what he's able to do and what kind of a man he's become, all of this stuff. And it just makes me wonder, is Rosita or Eugene going to die? My money's on Rosita, but I don't really know. And then to later on in the episode see Eugene actually go to the police station, go into custody, and claim that everything that happened he done solely and Max had nothing to do with it. I don't think Eugene's going to be the one to go, but Rosita's going to be the one to go. But it just feels like with those two characters who have been together since the moment they were introduced, it feels very final. It feels like this is their ending as a duo. This is the ending of that duo. Maybe one will live, but the other won't. But this feels like one of them is going to die, and my money is on Rosita. This episode as well ends off Rosita getting attacked in her apartment and captured. I actually almost forgot to talk about the whole Aaron Jerry storyline, who of course the episode is named after, but this felt very odd, very tacked on. I enjoyed it, but it's very weird to have this type of a storyline added onto the last 6 episodes of the series, mostly because I don't know where you go with this. This seems more like a spin-off setup rather than a part of the story. It reminds me of, if you've seen The Office, in season 9 they do an episode with Dwight on his farm. That was meant to set up a spin-off. This feels like that. This feels very disconnected from the rest of the story. Of course, we saw walkers like this in season 1. Haven't seen it since. So to bring it into this, I thought was very disconnecting from the rest of the story. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the location. I enjoyed seeing this type of walker again. But it was very odd. It was very intense, but very odd. I was somewhat disappointed we didn't get any deaths here. I was kind of expecting to see Elijah, I want to say his name is. I was kind of hoping to see someone's death here, and I was expecting it to be him, because he's a recognizable face, a somewhat memorable name, but he'd be an easy one to kill off and still have you feel a reaction. But no, you just see a very different type of walker, and it was just odd. I could be wrong. Next 5 episodes it could do something, but with the knowledge I have now, with 5 episodes left, introducing something like this is very odd. If this was a season 11 and we were getting a 12 onwards, it would be different. But the fact that we are at the end of this series and they're introducing something like this now is very odd, because it's going to be picked up in spin-offs. But why? I just think it's a very odd inclusion in the finale season of The Walking Dead. They could prove me wrong the next 5 episodes, but as of now, it was very odd. But I did feel very intense watching this episode, especially when the walkers break in and you see Lydia go to smack the walker away, and he grabs onto the spear and starts climbing his way towards the spear. And then once they get away and that walker starts to open the door, and Jerry is like, what the fuck? And then when they're on the roof and you see the walker's hands start to climb up, and he picks up the rock and starts making his way towards him, and then Aaron starts beating him and he starts screaming, because they all just assume it's Whisperers, because why would you not? And he goes to rip the Whisperers mask off and just rips the walker's face off. It was just really, really cool, really, really different for The Walking Dead, which is one of the complaints, is because why do this now? We're at the end game of the series. Why introduce something like this now? But I did have fun with the episode. I have a few negatives, like what I just said about the whole variant walker, but I'm really excited to see how the show wraps up. There's such amazing stories they're setting up at the moment. Where the hell is this all going to go? Because we didn't really get a lot of characters in this. We didn't get to see the likes of Carol or Negan or Maggie, people who were there at the time, to get their reaction to Sebastian's death, to see how everything's going about. And I'm just really excited for the next and final 5 episodes of The Walking Dead. If you want to hear my thoughts on the next and final 5 episodes of The Walking Dead, Click that subscribe button so you can go back and hear my thoughts on all 5 of these final episodes, as well as all the spin-offs we're getting next year, which I am very, very excited for. So if you want to hear all my thoughts on future Walking Dead properties, click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for listening.